We've now got two measures of industry concentration, the concentration ratios and the Herfindahl-Hirschman index. What's good about each of these? Well, concentration ratios are good because they're easy. You can calculate them easily, you can understand them easily. You could pretty confidently explain this to a 11, 12-year-old. They would have absolutely no problems understanding concentration ratios. The Herfindahl-Hirschman index, that might not be quite so easy to understand, but it does have some really important advantages. One, it thinks about all of the firms in the market, not just the top four or whatever. So as an example of that, we've got two different markets that I'm going to describe here. The first market has 10 firms with a 10% market share. The second market has 4 firms with a 10% market share and 60 firms with a 1% market share. Now the 4-firm concentration ratio is going to be identical for each of those, right? Because the top 4 firms each have a 10% market share in both of those markets. But the second one should be more competitive because it's got 64 firms in it. It looks a lot closer to being perfectly competitive than the first one does. So that illustrates that considering all the firms is pretty important. It's also important to take into account the distribution of those market shares. So in this example, we've got 2 duopolies. The first one has 2 firms with 50% market share. The second one has still 2 firms, hence the same 4-firm concentration ratio of 100%, but in the second one we've got a 1% firm and a 99% firm. That one looks basically like a monopoly with one tiny little hanger-on. So it looks like there should be much more competition in that first market, but the 4-firm concentration ratio would identify them as being equally concentrated. So this is showing that it really is important to consider all the firms and the distribution of their market shares, which makes the Herfindahl-Hirschman index a much better way of measuring industry concentration.